I'm Rachna and I'm back with a new lesson. In today's lesson, I'm going to teach you how to make suggestions and recommendations using different sentence structures. Okay, so we'll start with the first one. You can make a suggestion or a recommendation using what about or how about. Now this is a form of a question. Okay, so I have a few examples here for you. Let's see how we can use what about or how about when you make a suggestion or a recommendation. In my first example, what about going to the new restaurant? Okay, so we say, okay, your friends are planning to go for dinner. Where should we go? So your friend tells you, hey, how about going to the new restaurant? Or what about going to the new restaurant? Okay, now the sentence structure is you use what about, then you use a gerund. Well, I hope you remember we've learned about gerunds. So gerunds are ing form of verbs, but they're actually not verbs. They are known as noun verbs. Okay, so you say what about going to the new restaurant? Okay, when you're making a suggestion, or you can even say what about the new restaurant? Okay, so you have two ways of saying it. What about going to the new restaurant or what about the new restaurant? You don't use the gerund, you can just use the noun. Okay, same way in my next example, how about. So now let's learn how do we make a suggestion using how about. How about pasta? Okay, so your mother asks you, what should I cook for dinner today? So you said, how about pasta? You're making a suggestion to her to make pasta. Here you are using the noun. You can also say how about making pasta. So you can use the gerund ing, that's how about making pasta. Okay, now these two are interchangeable. You can say what about making pasta, what about pasta tonight. Okay, so they are interchangeable. Just remember you can use what about or how about with the gerund or directly the noun. Alright friends, let's take a look at a few more examples. What about warming leftovers? Okay, so or you can say what about the leftovers, why don't we eat them? So what about warming? Here I have used the gerund. Well, if you don't want to, you can just say what about the leftovers. In my next example, how about watching the match tonight? Okay, so what should we watch tonight on television? So you say, okay, how about watching the match tonight? Making a suggestion, you can say how about the match tonight? Okay, here I've used the gerund, but again you are free to drop the gerund and just use the noun. Okay, so I hope these two structures are very clear to you, what about and how about, when you make recommendations or suggestions. So now let's take a look at some more sentence structures on how to use or how to make suggestions and recommendations. Okay, my next structure is why don't. Okay. So now you say, okay, where should we go tonight? Why don't we try the new Chinese restaurant? Friends, this is very important. When you make a suggestion using why, please remember it is always in the negative and negative present. Okay, you cannot say why didn't we try. That means it's past and you're asking a question, you're not making a suggestion. So whenever you make a suggestion or a recommendation starting with why, remember always it goes in the negative. Unlike how about and what about that we just learned earlier, it does not go in the negative, but with why, after why you always say why don't we try the new Chinese restaurant. Okay, in my next example, why doesn't she go on a diet? Well, my friends put on a lot of weight, and she's cribbing all the time. So I say, why don't you go on a diet? Yeah, I'm making her a suggestion. So doesn't. Now why doesn't? Because it's the third person, which we always use does or doesn't. He, she, it. I, you don't. He, she, it doesn't. We don't. They don't. So because I'm talking about a third person who's my friend, I say, why doesn't she go on a diet? Okay. Now please remember you can even use how about or what about. They're interchangeable like I said. So you can say how about trying the new Chinese restaurant or how about the new Chinese restaurant. Okay. Or what about going on a diet. Okay. Now the next is let's. We use this when we make a recommendation and of course you're part of it because this is a contraction of let us. So what do we do now? You're getting bored? Okay, let's take a walk at the beach, alright? Or let's go for a picnic. So again, this is a type or another way to make a recommendation or a suggestion. You can also say, why don't we take a walk at the beach? But remember to put it in negative. Or you can say, why don't we go for a picnic tomorrow? Alright, so when you use why, please remember, put it in negative. And all these 4 sentence structures are interchangeable, but please remember to use them correctly. Alright, this brings me to the end of another lesson. Please put down your comments and queries if any. I'll be back soon with another lesson. Till then, take care and bye.